I know we're not big fans of jargon on this podcast, but this is one of the times when actually we do need a little bit of jargon, because PESTEL analysis is a really helpful way for structuring your thinking around scanning your external environment. Welcome to the Independent School Podcast. Thinking and acting strategically is the key to both securing the future of your school and helping to build a more equal and just world. My name's Juliette Corbett. I'm a consultant, speaker and facilitator specialising in helping independent schools. In this podcast, I translate tried and tested strategy and fundraising techniques into a language that works for schools. So if you're a senior leader in a private school and you want your daily work to feel less exhausting and more strategic, and if you want once more to feel the joy of making the world a better place through education, then you're in the right place. Welcome, and let's get started on this week's episode. Hello, and welcome. So today we are going to be talking about how to keep an eye on what's happening beyond your school's gates. What's happening in the big wide world out there, which you really need to be aware of and when you need to be prepared for in terms of the things that are going to be coming your way and trends that are going to be coming your way. Now, this is what strategists often call scanning your environment. And that sounds a little bit jargony, so we'll try not to use that too much, but it's basically about how you can encourage everyone in your school to be looking outside, beyond their own day-to-day to-do list, and spotting those trends and the changes that are happening outside your school's gates, which are going to help you to form really robust strategies and make decisions that are going to really help to position your school successfully over the coming years. So the most important thing is that you need to find a way to structure your thinking. So life is really, really busy. Your daily work life is full of things that you need to be doing. And this is just going to be another thing on that to-do list, which, let's be honest, is likely to fall down that to-do list to the very bottom most of the time, unless you find a way to structure your thinking around this. You also need to be able to create insight. So it's not just about trend spotting. It's about noticing which of those external trends beyond your school are actually going to impact on you in the future, and the kind of strategic choices and changes that you can make now to ensure that you're either making the most of those changes or avoiding the pitfalls of them. So in this episode, we are going to be talking about something called PESTEL analysis. Now, I know we're not big fans of jargon on this podcast, but this is one of the times when actually we do need a little bit of jargon, because PESTEL analysis is a really helpful way for structuring your thinking around scanning your external environment. So we're also going to be talking about the 4 big trends affecting every industry sector worldwide, which you do not want to be missing. Make sure you're thinking through those. And they're going to be wrapping up with 4 top tips to help you and your school to scan your environment successfully. Really quickly, before we dive into the detail, I want to make sure that you make the most of the time you invest listening to this podcast. And the best way to do that is to make sure you grab a copy of my free ebook, The Strategic Independent School Leader. It outlines how to answer the 6 essential questions that will clarify your school strategy and secure its future. In the world of business, strategy can be full of jargon, but it doesn't have to be that way. This is a jargon-free tool tailor-made to help private school leaders think and act more strategically. Download your free copy today at www.consultjuliette.co.uk/ebook. Okay, so let's get started by explaining this jargon of a PESTEL analysis. Like many of these tools, each of the letters in the word PESTEL stands for a certain part of your external environment. This is everything that's going on beyond your school gates. And the way this works is for you to, as a team, and that's really important. Yes, individual thinking, reflection can be important, can be helpful. Most of the time, this is beneficial when you're doing it as a team, as a group. And what you do in PESTEL analysis is to think through each of these letters and what it stands for, and think through how those external trends could be affecting your school either now or in the future. So let's run through what each of these letters mean. So the P that kicks off the PESTEL is for political. Now, I know that we have people listening from all over the world, so this will depend on your local political environment. So, for example, here in the UK, pre-pandemic, pre-COVID, we have had a long-running roller coaster of commentary and debate on all political sides, on the right and the left of the political spectrum, around taxation, on VAT, around charitable status, and that has been intensifying, shall we say politely, intensifying over the last sort of 5 to 10 years. In my opinion, it's taken a bit of a back seat because the pandemic has taken kind of precedence over all of our thinking. But my prediction would be it hasn't gone away for long, and that commentary and that debate will be back soon within the political agenda. So that's political, thinking through what political environment you are operating in. Next one up is E for economic. So economic obviously means the way that your national economy is running, but we know that independent schools work within a global context. This is also about the international economy. And a couple of different ways to think about this, two really important ones not to miss. First of all, what's happening economically, which is affecting your parents, so your potential parents in the various different markets in which you operate. So, for example, are there economic trends, let's say COVID-related economic trends, which are affecting fee affordability, for example? So fee affordability is about a comparison between the average income or the average income within the markets that you're targeting and your fees, and to what extent parents are able to either very easily afford fees for your school, or to what extent they are making big sacrifices to send their children to your school. Now, the economic environment is going to affect that, not only because of jobs, people losing their jobs due to COVID, unemployment rates potentially increasing in some areas of the world, but it's also about uncertainty. So the more uncertain your potential parents or current parents are about their economic prospects, that will affect their decision making when it comes to independent education. So that's the first thing for economic. How is it affecting your parents and your marketplace? The second thing to think about is how is it affecting your business directly? So as a school, as a business, you may be either have loans or be considering taking out loans where interest rates will have a significant impact on your decision making. So we in the UK here, we have low interest rates at the moment. Predictions and thoughts about to what extent that will continue might affect your decision making around loans. It also comes into investment returns as well. So schools that have an endowment where they're investing and relying on the income that those investments produce to run the school. Really important to think about how the economy affects your business of being a school. So we've done political and economic. The third letter in PESTEL is S, and this stands for societal. Now, to be really clear, I'm not talking about social as in social media. I'm talking about societal trends. Of course, one of which may be social media. This is much wider than just that, though. So societal trends can affect your school in a number of different ways. Thinking closest to home, first of all, they're going to have an impact on your pupils. So an emphasis on well-being, on equality and inclusion. We're seeing all of these become much more important as a societal trend. People are valuing these things more. That means that your pupils will want to be receiving a curriculum which is really tailored around how can they look after their mental health, what role can they play in creating an equal and inclusive society, and so on. And don't forget, this is your pupils, it's also your parents and what they want to see as well. So it will also affect your marketplace in which you operate. So there might be some societal attitudes to independent education within your target market. So the way that parents consider independent education has certainly shifted over time. And those shifts in your marketplaces, whether they're local or global, need to be tracked. You need to understand what those attitudes are. It can also have an impact on your recruitment because, of course, your staff are an integral part of society. So as society changes the things that it values, the things that it places importance on, such as work-life balance, for example, you may find that you have staff who are now valuing a different sort of balance in their work. So societal change can also affect your ability to recruit excellent staff. And then finally, it's also the attitudes of the media and of wider society. And clearly there's a link here. All of these are closely linked, but there's a link between societal attitudes and political attitudes and the attitudes of the media as well. So all of these things are linked together, but thinking through how you can influence the attitudes in wider society and the media, perhaps by putting out really good press releases about some of the bursary programs that you have, some of the school partnership programs that you have with state schools and so on, community activities and so on, helps to start to change some of those societal attitudes to independent education. So moving on to the fourth letter in PESTEL, that is T for technology. So technology impacts in two main ways. Firstly, in the classroom. Clearly, especially over the last kind of 18 months or so of the pandemic, technology has influenced the way that we deliver education. So predicting or understanding those trends will help you to understand what the future of education looks like technologically. But it also plays a role in the way that your parents and your alumni want to be communicated with. The rise of social media, the shift between different platforms within social media, attitudes towards data and data protection within the technological sphere. All of these things will have an impact on the way that you are communicating using technology. And it also has an impact on the way that you are collecting data in an appropriate way and then using those insights to actually improve the education that you're providing in school. So it's about what happens in the classroom, and it's also about what's happening within your parent, alumni and wider communities in terms of communication style and technique. Moving on to our fifth letter in PESTEL, another E, this time for environmental, by which we mean climate change. So here you need to be thinking about the direct future impact or even current impact of climate change on the school. To be thinking about the way in which your business model is challenged by energy prices potentially increasing in the future, the way in which perhaps attitudes toward flood zoning and land zoning in your area might change during climate change as that escalates over time. All the thinking through all the different mechanisms and ways that climate change could impact your school going forwards. So that's really important to think about, alongside with what many people are already thinking about. How does that influence your curriculum? Thinking about how you educate young people to be change makers in a world in which we need to prevent or at least slow down and stop climate change. And also thinking about the intersection between all of these. The societal trends are seeing that there is increasing concern about climate change. And so the fact that not only is climate change accelerating in speed, but also people are more concerned about it, is a clear intersection between some of those societal trends, which we just talked about, and some of these environmental climate change trends as well. And then the final letter in PESTEL is L for legal. Now, this one actually tends to have less of a direct impact in schools, largely because schools are very good at knowing what their legal obligations need to be. So it's unlikely that you need to be thinking about this any more than you already are. Obviously, legal includes things like safeguarding, rules around COVID restrictions and regulations, things to do with health and safety, things to do with building regulations and so on. Now, as I say, normally schools are pretty much on this all the time, so that's fine. You might want to be thinking about what future changes could be happening and then thinking about how those could impact your school. And clearly here, especially for schools, there is a very close relationship between the political and the legal, because it's likely that new legal obligations that schools face will have been put in place through a political process. So again, they all sort of meld together and have interactions between each other. Now, I was covering this at a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and I had an excellent question, which is COVID. Should this be another letter in our PESTEL? Now, my thoughts on this are, if you want it to be, yes, it can be. You know, these are tools which you can flex and change depending on how you want to use them. My instinct is COVID has a complicated impact on all of the areas that are already covered within a PESTEL analysis. So the way that I do these now is that I make sure, kind of like a little check at the end of this process, have we thought through COVID? And if there's anything we've missed, I would go back and add it into one of the existing headings within a PESTEL analysis. So I don't consider it separate, but I do consider it a driver of change across all of those areas. Now, this may seem like a bit of hard work. There's a little bit of a shortcut I want to tell you about. So there are 4 big picture trends that are affecting all industry sectors worldwide. Now, if you want a shortcut, these are the ones that you need to be really clear on and have a really good sense of understanding the trends in these areas for you and for your school in particular. Okay, so these 4 big trends are the digitization of pretty much everything that we do. So this is the technology side. In particular, the impact of artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, and the extent to which those genuinely offer opportunities for improving the education which we offer to our young people within our schools, and how we determine what's really helpful in the classroom in moving forwards, and how we determine which of these are just a bit gimmicky, which of these are of the moment. They might help you in a marketing sense, but they're not actually necessarily adding a huge amount of value in the classroom. So thinking through how you're using all of these new technologies in the classroom is a really critical area of your strategic thinking. The second one, we've already covered it, climate change. You can't avoid thinking about climate change. It will be increasingly important over the coming decade. Your school needs to have a thoroughly thought out position and plan and ethos, if you like, philosophy around how it's going to address these challenges. And it's not just about what you do in the classroom, it's also about how you run your business, how you run your school as a business. So number 2, don't forget climate change. Number 3, demographics and aging. In the developed world, we have an aging population which is having significant impact in the independent sector on how fees are paid. So a lot of the time it's now grandparents paying fees rather than parents. There are shifts in the number of young people in local areas. It's not always consistent nationally. We're seeing some localized shift with regards to the number of young people coming through certain age groups in terms of thinking about your day market. So understanding your demographics and the impact of an aging population is essential, absolutely essential. And the 4th big picture trend is globalization. Now, again, globalization is not one of those items within a PESTEL analysis in its own right, just like COVID isn't, but it does influence everything. So understanding how the globalization of the independent education market impacts on your school is really critically important. So if you don't have time to do the whole PESTEL analysis, focus on those 4 and it will take you a long way towards having a good scan of your environment outside your school gates. So just to wrap up, 4 top tips for you. Now, first of all, this is not about creating the perfect PESTEL analysis. PESTEL is a means to an end. It is a way of stimulating group thinking. Do it as a group. Really important to get that interaction, get those different viewpoints out in the open. It's a way of identifying trends that are going to affect your school. It's not about creating the perfect PESTEL analysis that you can sort of submit for marking at some point in the future. It's going to help you to focus your thoughts on what's important. So it's not about creating a long list, it's about creating a focused list of the important points. So don't aim to be perfect. That's top tip number 1. Top tip number 2, this is for everyone in your school. So I've said do this as a group, but this isn't just about senior management or about governors doing this as a group. This is about everybody in your school being alert to these changing trends around them. Everyone will have a different kind of lived experience, a different way they go about their life, which will give them a diverse point of view and enable them to spot things early. So helping your staff to understand how they can do this on a regular basis can really help you to create a really robust scan of the external environment. Top tip number 3, this is a continuous activity. So clearly you might sit down as a team, as a group, and do this as part of a kind of a team session, and that is then a one-off activity. But once you've done it, you have to be continually alert to what's going on outside your school gates. These things change. They can change on a dime in some cases. So it is a continuous activity you have to keep alert to. And then top tip number 4, you can't use this on its own. This is a useful way of analysing and understanding your external environment, but you have to combine it with a really robust analysis of both your competitive landscapes, all the different markets that you compete in. An analysis of that is critically important as well, as is an analysis of your internal strengths and weaknesses, so within your school community. So those are my 4 top tips. Number 1, don't try and do this to be perfect. It's all about stimulating thinking. Number 2, this is for everyone across the school, not just for senior leadership. Number 3, this is a continuous activity, not just a one-off that you put on the shelf when you finished it. And number 4, as powerful as this is, it's not enough on its own. You need to combine it with other analysis around competitive landscape and internal strengths and weaknesses. So I hope that's been helpful. Like I said at the beginning, I don't like jargon, but sometimes it's important to understand some of these really powerful strategy analytical tools. And PESTEL is certainly one of the ones that I use really frequently in my workshop. So it's worth doing with your team, worth understanding how it works. If you have any questions, please do fire me an email. My contact details are on my website, which is linked from these episode notes. So that's it for this time. Have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Independent School Podcast, the podcast that helps senior leaders in private schools to think and act more strategically, both because they want to secure the future of their school and because they want to help build a more equal and just world. You can listen in everywhere that podcasts are available. And if you want to catch up on previous episodes or follow any of the links that I've mentioned today, just head over to www.consultjuliet.co.uk/podcast.